My family invited my daughter's bully to our vacation because he deserves it and assumed that would be okay. But I'm standing firm and refusing to go if that hellish child gets to come too. I, 43 male. I'm really close to my family, which includes my siblings, their spouses, their kids, and my parents. Every year we go on a vacation around this time of year for 2 weeks and return just before Christmas. We're supposed to leave a week from today. I am the divorced, single, sole parent of my amazing daughter, 15 female. She jokingly calls herself a nerd. She's quirky, loves anime, video games, Star Wars, and the whole stereotypical nerd scene. She has dealt with bullying at school, but since leaving middle school and growing up a bit, she's handled it better and most of it has stopped. However, one boy, whom Jeff, 16 male presumably, and who happens to be my nephew's, who is also somewhat of an idiot best friend, is an absolute nightmare. I've spoken to the school, we've had meetings with his parents, and she's even switched classes extensively, but Jeff still goes out of his way to torment Emily. She's told me she can handle name-calling, but it doesn't stop there. He pulls her hair, rips her clothes, and destroys her belongings. This kid is a full-fledged nightmare. They even got into a fistfight last year, one that led to both of them being suspended because he stole her backpack and dumped it into a full toilet in the boys' bathroom. While discussing our vacation plans with my sister, she mentioned needing to buy Jeff a winter coat. When I realized he was coming on the trip, I almost lost it. Without thinking, I told her we weren't going, and she immediately began begging me, talking about tradition, family, and so on. I stood firm, saying I'd eat the cost of our portion, but we were not going. After a longer discussion, I told her I'd reconsider only if Jeff were disinvited. We are fortunate to have grown up in a financially stable home with attentive and supportive parents, and our kids have enjoyed the same privilege. Jeff, however, hasn't been as lucky. He lives in an unstable environment, both financially and emotionally. This became evident in the meetings with his parents. His father seemed indifferent, and his mother blamed Emily for being evil. And this was during multiple separate meetings. It's awful, and I genuinely feel sorry for Jeff or any child who has to endure that kind of environment. Still, I told my sister that my position remained unchanged. The conversation went back and forth with her offering excuses. Jeff has divorced parents. He grew up differently than we did. Maybe he's just acting out because he has a crush. Ew! When I brought up the fist fight, she said, "I know, but Jeff needs this." She argued that he needed a break from his toxic home life. While I understand and respect that, I don't see why my daughter should have to share a house for 2 weeks with her tormentor. I stood my ground and went home. Now all hell has broken loose. My family is divided, my parents are begging me to go, and I'm getting near constant texts. My daughter told me she won't go if Jeff is there, and she had a full-blown panic attack over the situation. Maybe I'm seeking validation. Or maybe I need a wake-up call, and I'm just being a selfish person. What do you think? Relevant comments comment one hold firm, I'd say. Since when does our family reward egregious behavior? Response, excellent wording. Thank you. Comment 2. Jeff's situation may be tragic, but your priority should always be your daughter. And it sounds like you've got your priorities straight. Step to your stance. Jeff is not your responsibility, and asking you to sacrifice your daughter's mental well-being for a child who has repeatedly tormented her is downright cruel. I'm guessing he hasn't even apologized and showed remorse, and they expect you and your daughter to roll over for him just because he has a tough time for him to learn a tough lesson, not to take his problems out on others. Response, no real apology, no. They bad to read each other apology letters for their suspension, but that's it. As I said, it's really sad that a child is struggling in the way Jeff is, but my kid doesn't need to pay for that. Update. Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I wanted to share an update and resolution, though truth be told, it's a bit anticlimactic. Before I begin, I want to thank everyone who shared their thoughts and advice. I appreciate all the comments, though I quickly got overwhelmed by the amount of attention. I'm sorry if there were any unanswered questions. There were just so many comments. I'm still trying to maintain some anonymity, but I'm happy to answer any questions that don't compromise that. The night before last, my 3 siblings, their spouses, and my parents all gathered at my sister's house to talk everything through. I very immaturely walked in with a bit of an attitude. I knew I wasn't going to change my mind, and I felt like this was a waste of time. However, my daughter has been expressing to me how much she wants to go on this trip, so I decided to attend. It started with my sister and my mom crying and begging me to go, but that got shut down pretty quickly by almost everyone else. My sister expressed how bad she felt for Jeff. She reiterated that he's from a lower-income household, with a mother who babies him and a father who doesn't care. She also mentioned that Jeff and Emily had been polite to each other at family gatherings, which led her to believe they were getting over their issues. During the conversation, I also learned that the waiver Jeff was on extended to his tuition, contrary to what I had previously been told, that it was only for his uniforms and school supplies. So I want to apologize for making an incorrect comment about that earlier. Even so, my sister continued to try and convince me and the rest of the family to let Jeff come. I truly do understand where she's coming from. I can empathize with Jeff in a situation, but, as I've said before, my empathy for Jeff does not outweigh my responsibility to protect my daughter as her only parent. It's literally my job to make sure she's safe, and putting her in a house with Jeff for 2 weeks is not safe. Thanks to a comment someone made, I said my daughter does not feel safe around Jeff. My brother-in-law, the husband of the sister in question, immediately replied, "Well, that settles it." At this point, the only adult still advocating for Jeff to go was my sister. My mother and sister-in-law wanted me to compromise and attend the trip regardless of Jeff's presence, but everyone else was adamant that Jeff should not go. In fact, most of the family didn't even know Jeff was invited until I mentioned in the group chat that I wouldn't attend because of him. This included my sister's husband, my father, who happens to be a therapist, has been incredibly supportive throughout this whole situation. He shared his reasons for not wanting Jeff there beyond the obvious ones. Most notably, he raised concerns about the potential for SA. My nephew had mentioned that Jeff likes Emily, and if Jeff's mindset is as dysfunctional as it seems, he might not have the tools to express his feelings in a healthy way. This could lead to harmful behavior. Note, my sister tried to pull an "I told you so" about Jeff having a crush, but I literally laughed in response. I do not care if Jeff has a crush on my daughter. He has been so awful to her. She handles it like a champ, holding her head high, and I'm incredibly proud of her for that. But his behavior toward her has been so cruel that it makes me sick. Ultimately, it was decided that Jeff would not be going on the trip. Thanks to another suggestion I saw, I told my sister that while I appreciated her trying to help Jeff, her niece had to come first in the situation. I also pointed out, again thanks to a comment, that Jeff might retaliate against Emily for being disinvited. To address this, we came up with a plan. My nephew would tell Jeff at school the next day that he wasn't invited because he didn't want Jeff and Emily to get into a fight. While I personally thought this plan was dumb, as long as the blame wasn't placed on Emily, I didn't care. We left for the night, and both Emily and I hugged my sister. She apologized, and everything felt generally okay. I'm still frustrated with her for prioritizing helping Jeff over protecting my daughter, and we haven't fully discussed that yet, but I'm sure that conversation will happen eventually. My mom also apologized to Emily, saying she never meant to make her feel unsafe and didn't intend to come across that way. She explained that she simply wanted us to come on the trip. I'm still upset with her too, but again, that's a conversation for another time. I told Emily not to get her hopes up. Part of me still didn't believe Jeff wouldn't find a way to go. However, we proceeded with cautious optimism. In the meantime, I consulted a lawyer friend who advised me not to go on the trip if Jeff ended up going, and not to speak to him or his parents directly. No problem there. I was already resigned to not going, and I had no desire to engage with Jeff or his family. Additionally, my sister's husband and I had a long talk about how disappointed he was in her over this whole situation. That's not really my business, but I appreciated knowing he remained as fiercely protective of my daughter as I thought he was. This brings us to last night. Emily showed me a message from my nephew that simply said so Jeff backed out Lamount. Turns out Jeff didn't even know Emily was going on the trip. When my nephew started to tell him, he got as far as saying Emily is going to be there, and Jeff immediately said he couldn't go. According to my nephew, Jeff just got weird, said he wasn't coming, and left it at that. While I do feel sorry for him, my daughter remains my priority. My brother-in-law's response to the situation, he sent me laughing emojis. At first I wasn't sure if we should go on the trip out of principle, as some comments suggested. However, my daughter said she still really wanted to go, even after I suggested doing something else instead. So we're going! Yay! That's really it. Sorry for the length. I tried to focus on the family discussion since that was the most important part, but it wasn't some big dramatic confrontation, just a long conversation in my sister's kitchen. Have a great day and a happy holiday season. Thank you for listening and for all the advice. I truly appreciate it.